Living in a major way. Nice clothes, nice cars, nice clothes, nice cars.
Okay, welcome back. This is the third episode of 100% Trustworthy Financial Advice, not financial advice. And for today's episode, I'm going to be talking about general consumer advice. I just want to give people some of my thoughts on the state of consumer habits and the state of consumer goods. And this episode will also feature a short interview at the end that I had with my former boss and current state representative of PA's 146th district, Joe Ciresi. So my first tip of advice is don't buy anything. In all seriousness, I think that especially for people who are young like me and impulsive, I'm definitely impulsive, you need to take a deep breath before every purchase. Because every company is trying to sell you convenience, but I'm going to tell you this, that money is the most convenient thing that you can have. You don't need that random piece of Tupperware that also minces onions, and you don't need some NASA-engineered phone accessory that functions exactly the same as the one you already have. You don't need gadgets or gizmos. And my real problem with these little doohickeys is that they're just garbage. They break and they get thrown out after a year. And I think it's just such a waste. We talk about waste as a society and like who is responsible. And I think it's important for each individual to analyze their consuming habits. Stop buying worthless shit that marginally improves your life. It really is nauseating to scroll through Instagram and social media and see ads for stuff that is just like bewilderingly menial. Like pieces of plastic that will be broken 2 months into their use. And I know everyone's thinking that like, okay, but it's just $9, all right? It doesn't really hurt me that much to spend $9 on this piece of plastic, this little pop socket adjacent thing that's like completely over-engineered and there's 1,000 ads for it on Instagram. It's only $9 to buy this thing. But it's just plastic garbage that's going to break after 2 months, and you're going to throw it away, and you're not going to think it's too bad because, like I said, it's only $9. But, I mean, you could have saved that $9, or you could have bought, like, a coffee with that $9. You could have done something that was more productive for your life and less wasteful for the rest of the world. Like, I think we're filling up, like, landfills and oceans with just, like, impulse purchases. So please, like, reconsider your little treat purchases. Because you're just being sold like useless bullshit that will end up choking some dolphin to death, at the end of it all. And I like to treat myself. I like a little treat, Every time I don't treat myself, I feel like I should treat myself. But honest to God, like impulse internet purchases are so banal and they're so harmful when you look at it on the grand scale, because I know every single college student is probably making some degree of impulse purchases. And the less waste we can create, I think the better. And then my second tip of advice is to know who you are buying from. I felt this the most when I used to use Amazon. I no longer do. But I needed a cable for my computer's monitor. And the first cable I ordered off Amazon, it worked for like about a month. And then it just, it wasn't working after that. There was no display. So I figured there must have been something wrong with the brand. So I ordered from a different brand off of Amazon. And when I got past the logo and the packaging and I got to the cable itself, it was just the exact same cable. And then when I went on to Amazon, I look at the store pages and the brands of these cables. The brand names are just some random English letters mashed together. I think the one I remember was like Autkey or something like that, A-U-T-K-Y, something like that, maybe Autkey, maybe no T in there. And I was looking at the reviews for these cables, and they all had like high ratings, like 4 and 5 stars. I wasn't going to buy something that had less than that. But I never actually like bothered to read the reviews. I just saw the stars, and there was like a couple thousand reviews. So I was like, all right, safe to say that's probably reputable. But then when I like read the reviews, like half the reviews were not even for the product in question. It was not for cables at all. It was talking about like lawn furniture, some of them. Some of these 5-star reviews were referring to lawn furniture. I was very confused by that. And that's when I discovered like a common business practice by vendors on Amazon. They buy the product page for a successful product, and then they change every detail of the listing to fit the description of the product they want to sell. And for whatever reason, Amazon lets you do this without losing the reviews to that product page, even if literally every detail has been changed. So these companies come in and they sell garbage that barely works with the air of legitimacy from these previous reviews. And by the time people like me come looking for the refund, and like I said, it was like a $13 cable or something like that. So I wasn't too mad about getting a refund. I was just mad that the cable didn't work back to back. But when people do come looking for refunds, the products have all been sold from that vendor and they shut the page down and they move on. They're in and out. Like I said, I bought 2 of these cables, so I wasted like $30. And that's a little annoying. But like I said, there was really no one to complain to. I guess I could have complained to Amazon, but dealing with Amazon customer support chat is one of the most infuriating things you can ever do. You should always lie to customer support chat and get whatever you can from them. Always lie to customer support. But Amazon is just filled to the brim with this nonsense, and it makes buying everyday products from them like a real pain. Amazon, I used to think, was like a good service because you legitimately could get like everyday products shipped right to your door every 2 days. It worked very well, but I feel like ever since the pandemic, it's been like infestated by like drop shipping adjacent businesses that essentially just sell you garbage that breaks. And if you look up like a phone case or a case for AirPods on Amazon, you're gonna see a bunch of these like brands you've never heard from, like Autofly and like Ericsson. And it's like, what are these brands? Why are they selling $8 phone cases? What's the real story behind this? Like, I have an iPhone 14. It's purple. I want people to be able to see that it's purple. It's very vain. I'm very vain. So I buy like a clear case off of Amazon, and like 6 weeks into owning it, it's turned yellow. And then I go to an actual phone store. I go to Verizon. I buy one of the cases that's like $23. I've had it for a year and a half. It's still perfectly clear. So they're just selling you garbage on Amazon nowadays. So I just cut Amazon off completely. I know that for, at least a decade they've had terrible labor practices, but I'm not exactly the most moral man. I guess that wasn't enough to make me cancel. It was only when I was being negatively affected by the service is when I canceled. But just in general, I feel like Amazon has really taken advantage of their monopoly with this situation, and they're kind of exploiting the customers by giving them a worse and worse service as time goes on, but people are becoming more and more reliant as time goes on, unfortunately. But that's one bit of advice. Maybe cancel your Amazon subscription. Find out how inconvenient the modern world is without them, and you'll find that, they really weren't that great, and you can find the stuff they have elsewhere, or you don't need to find that stuff because you really, really don't need it. Now, I just told you that a lot of consumer goods are just useless garbage, and whether that's because of their quality or because of their purpose, and you might be thinking like, okay, you're telling me things are garbage. Why is that? And the truth behind that, just in general, is always money and greed. That's the answer behind literally every question in the world is money and greed. But the truth is that this is kind of planned to have crappy products. Even from reputable vendors, they sell you crappy products that break because they figured out it's better to sell more things to people. It's not good to just sell someone something once. It's better to sell them something twice. So I'll give you a little anecdote. My grandparents bought their house in the middle of the 1960s. It's a really beautiful, late 19th century Victorian. Really beautiful house. But a couple years into owning this house, they redid the kitchen. And the fridge that they bought when they redid the kitchen in the late 60s is still working and running in the pantry of that house. It's been 60 years and that fridge is still running with minor maintenance along the way. Now, a couple years ago, my brother bought a house with a remodeled kitchen, and his fridge is breaking like every couple months. And it's not that we got a lot stupider in the last 60 years. It's just that companies figured out that they could sell you 10 fridges throughout your lifetime instead of just one. And that makes them a lot more money. And just to be clear, I'm not literally just talking about fridges. This is present in literally every consumer industry. Apple just got sued for planned obsolescence. Light bulbs, incandescent, could last forever, but companies, this is a famous example of this in the early 1900s, companies lobbied, I believe it was the California state government, and then it later got adopted by the federal government, but they lobbied that manufactured light bulbs could only burn for a specific amount of time, that they had to burn out after a certain amount of time. And this was literally just so they could sell more light bulbs. It wasn't cheaper. It wasn't more energy efficient. I think they made the argument that it was better for fire safety, but it was like a misapplied argument. It was literally just so they could sell more light bulbs. And this planned obsolescence, or this worsening in quality, is something that we kind of see in clothing nowadays. Everything starts to fray and come apart after just a couple months. And fast fashion, this thing we're hearing about a lot more recently, is becoming more and more prominent. And it's incredibly detrimental to the workers and to the environment. I mean, you look at the working conditions of these like fast fashion brands; they're horrific. And then you look at the pictures from like the Sahara, where there's just millions upon millions of articles of clothing just strewn about in massive piles, because that's the only way to dispose of this clothing. It seems it cannot be recycled because it's half polyester, it's half unusable or unreusable plastic. But it isn't just fast fashion. Even reputable brands are beginning to suffer from outrageously poor quality control that kind of lends itself to this cheapening of quality so that people buy more and more from you. I like to buy from Nike just because they fit me well. And in the last couple years, I've noticed that their articles of clothing, not so much their shoes, really have gone down in quality. The stitching on them, the threading, even the weight of the clothing itself is becoming worse. However, it isn't all doom and gloom. There are things that you can do to counteract this. For starters, please buy used more often. I know people don't like to hear this, but thrifted clothing is good. Like, I, for one, a lot of the times I just think it looks better. I think styles in the past were more obstinacious and more daring. I think we're very boring or just stupid in styles today. But the clothing that you find that's older is often made of higher quality materials, like heavier weighted cloth or tighter stitched cotton, things like that. And you're reusing something that still has purpose left to serve. I mean, they're not like dwindling rags. Some people who thrift will buy the dwindling rags because it has a cool picture on the front of it or something like that. I'm not so much into that. I like to buy clothes that are old and used, but they still function. Like a sweatshirt still keeps me warm. And the pants, don't really like to buy used pants, if I'm being honest. That can be a bit of a gamble. I've never donated a pair of pants to a thrift store because I know the crimes that have been committed in them. So I generally don't buy pants from thrift stores, but hey, to each their own. But buying used goods is not just limited to clothing. There are plenty of household items that you should be buying used. For instance, furniture. Please buy used furniture. It will be cheaper, and without a doubt, it will be higher quality. This is kind of just like home run thoughts, but I like to go on, I think it's Cherish, Chairish, Cherish. They have a lot of, it's like a boutique and kind of, it's not a boutique, it's a marketplace, but they have more boutique items, I would say, specialized items. Chairs that individually will cost like $1,300 each. Again, I'm not saying that that's something you're going to be shopping for, but you do get a glimpse into what the craftsmanship and manufacturing quality was like in decades past when you shop on a store like that. So just go on places like Facebook Marketplace, look for old people that have died, look for estate sales, look for furniture that you could not buy used. It's not even that you couldn't afford it new nowadays, but they just don't make furniture like they used to. A lot of furniture has really taken a nosedive in the last couple years. Just the materials and the craftsmanship are terrible. And the cheap stuff, I'm not talking IKEA. IKEA has kind of done a good job of always remaining the same. They have really nestled into that, hey, do-it-yourself Lego mentality. They've done a good job of streamlining their process. You know what you're going to get with IKEA, even if some of their like layout in the store itself can be like, oh, what the hell are we doing here? Why am I walking through a maze? And then they're trying to give me food. IKEA is an odd place. But what I'm talking about more is don't buy like really cheap dog shit furniture from places like Target or Walmart where you have to put it together yourself as well. The particle board that they use or whatever they use, it's the cheapest, most structurally unsound material on the planet. It might last for a couple months, but if you apply any real weight to it, like I bought bookshelves. I bought two about 6 foot high bookshelves, 4 feet, maybe 3 feet wide bookshelves. I have a lot of books. Not because I read, but because I want people to think that I read. But I have a lot of books. My family has a lot of books. And when I loaded that thing up, it was immediately like bowing and swaying. And it wasn't, and I didn't overload it. I did a good job. I made sure to put all the heavy books on the structural shelf in the middle, but it still was like bowing and swaying. And after a couple months, I just got rid of it because I was not too faithful in the tape job that I did to keep it standing straight up. So please just don't buy furniture from Target. But if you are going to buy new, and this goes for everything, not just furniture or clothing, see if you can buy something made locally. I believe it is important to like foster your local economies and businesses when you are capable of doing so. And the reason why buying local or even just American made is better is because what you are paying for is labor and materials. So in some instances, to be honest, in a lot of instances, the price will be higher, but you know what you are paying for. When you buy foreign-made goods, some places from like China, Southeast Asia, a lot of the price that you are paying for is just to ship the materials and products across oceans. So you're not paying for labor. You're definitely not paying for labor. They pay them nothing. And you're not quite certain whether you're paying for materials either. You know you're paying a massive amount for transportation and logistics. When you buy local or American made, you are paying more, but you know you are paying for the labor and the materials. So yeah, really to conclude, what I want to say is you don't need to buy as much as you think or that you want to buy. Please buy less. And if you do buy something, make sure it's of high quality and that you're not just throwing your money away. Those are the two main points that I really want to drive home. Buy high quality stuff if you're going to buy something at all. Now, for this next part of the episode, it's going to be the discussion or interview that I had with my former boss. We talked about his position on the Consumer Protections Committee. I hope you enjoy. Thank you.
Alrighty. So today I am interviewing the state representative for the 146th district of Pennsylvania, which is Joe Ciresi. I interned for his office this past summer, and I learned a lot about like the background gears of government. It's a very informative internship. So how's it going today, Joe?
Good. I'm your favorite state representative, aren't I?
I am even better than anyone else I know. We don't even need to
Anybody
get
else
into
you know?
them.
That's right. No,
Yeah.
you got one that's better than me. Otherwise, you're going to get in trouble.
A little bit, yes. My mom, I do prefer my mom slightly.
Yeah, that's right. You should prefer your mom. I love your mom. She's a great person.
Yeah.
But yeah, everything's good. So what do we got?
All right, yeah. So just to give you some background on this podcast, the focus of the podcast is to give like young people who are just starting out in the professional world, whether it be after like college or just after high school or whenever they're entering the professional world. And the reason why I wanted to interview you today was I wanted to interview you because of your position on the Consumer Protections Committee, which I think like consumer protection and consumer rights is like an underrated thing when it comes to like being a young adult or being an adult in general, just because you are constantly buying things, and if the stuff doesn't work,
Right.
it can really affect your financials. So I guess my first question for you is why were you interested in joining the Consumer Protections Committee?
Well, I think it's like you said. I mean, we have a lot of issues where people feel they have nowhere to turn. They don't know what the laws are. Sometimes there are no laws for it. And being on that committee gives you an opportunity to understand what's available when people have issues, and also to help improve when there are issues that we don't have coverage for or laws for, things that may have slipped through the cracks. So it's a great committee that I do enjoy being part of, and you feel like you're really getting something done by being on it.
Yeah, when I was interning for you there over the summer, I remember there was a lot of things that we were working on or dealing with related to consumer protections. I remember there was a lot of people coming in asking about like lemon laws and things like that. I think we were adding amendments to the lemon laws requirements in Pennsylvania, I think to include motorcycles.
Yeah,
So
I was just
yeah.
going to say motorcycles were the one that were included this year, and RVs is another one that's being looked at.
Oh, you're looking into that as well? Yeah, that's a huge like up and coming market, is like RVs and van life sort of things. So yeah, that'd be
Exactly,
definitely something to
especially
look into.
post-pandemic. Yeah,
Yes, especially
absolutely.
post pandemic. All right. And So my second question, which is related, I think you kind of touched on it, was that without consumer protections, do you think that the quality of our goods would worsen?
Well, I mean, consumer protections is there. It's on both sides. It's for the consumer
Hmm.
and also the manufacturer, because it
Right.
does protect them in certain things too. You know, things happen that no one could have foreseen,
Hmm.
and the consumer protections is there to help that too. So, I mean, it's hard to say. If people are doing things to scam people, yes, then it is
Hmm.
something that we need to have. If it's just happening because it's happening, well, it would happen either way. So it's hard to say.
But you view it as like mutually beneficial for consumer and for manufacturer because it allows the manufacturer to like make improvements, I guess.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And so in other states, there's been like issues gaining notoriety, particularly like the right to repair. I'm sure you're familiar with repairing your own farm equipment, repairing equipment that you buy and own. Do you foresee more calls in the future for government intervention on the behalf of consumer rights? Do you think that's something you could see?
I think there's always going to be more calls. I
Hmm.
mean, as technology changes, as products develop, we're always going to have people who are looking for different things and things that we didn't think about when the product came out. So there's always going to be something. Like right now, I just put a bill in totally off of what you said, a totally different subject, but for uh, what's called gift card scams
Hmm.
to protect the consumer. I mean, who would ever thought that gift cards would be scammable and people would be telling you to buy gift cards to pay your taxes with? So we put a law out about that to make people aware that this is happening.
Yeah, it's a big problem. I'm a cashier at Acme, and I run into that all the time. These like gift card scams. You would be surprised. It's like a couple people a day, primarily like the elderly, that have to. I had to turn away. It's like, oh, you don't know who you're buying these for. So yeah, it's crazy
Right.
the level of consumer protection that's needed.
Exactly.
And so my final question for you, this was just going to be a quick little interview just for a soundbite for the larger podcast. And my final question for you is, how do you view the market of consumer goods, like in your lifetime? Do you think the quality of goods has declined, or do you think it's improved? What do you think are like some of the causes for that?
I think it's always evolving, our consumer
Hmm.
goods. So yes, over the years it's definitely improved because we've learned a lot. Our cars have gotten safer, our products have gotten
Hmm.
safer. It's safer. Our food products have gotten safer because we've learned things. But there's always going to be that company or person who's going to try and cut corners. That we have to make sure that through the protections that we have and consumer protections in all our government agencies, that the consumer is always going to have a safety, and the product isn't going to make it to market. And if it does make it to market, then the correction is going to be able to happen quickly.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. All right, that's really all the questions I have for you today. Is there anything that you want to plug or talk about this
No, that's it. I mean, we
podcast?
just brought up just the thing about I just told you about the
Mhm.
whole deal with the gift cards. That would be it.
Mhm.
You know.
All righty. Thank you
Well,
very
thank
much.
you. Thank
I
you.
just
Good
want to
speaking with
give a
you.
shout out to your staff as well over at your office. They were a pleasure to work with, and I'm
Well,
sure they're still doing a great job.
well, thank you. And you were great having me in the office. You're welcome back anytime.
All right. Have a nice
You
day.
take care. You too. Thanks. Bye bye.